The movie kicks off with a young guy sprinting through a forest all alone. This forest, situated on an island, has been deliberately transformed into a hunting playground for rich people. In the end, the unfortunate people randomly chosen as the prey must meet his demise. In a cruel twist, a billionaire named Samuel isn't satisfied. As the top contributor for this cruel sport, he wants an even tougher target. This sport is overseen by a woman in charge named West, who's helped by a bunch of AI systems. West needs to carefully pick who the best prey would be. Because they've bribed the police, they can only pick their targets from the available prisoners. Unfortunately, until now, no one has survived on that island. But one day, the AI suggests an elderly man named Thomas Malone. Malone is an old inmate serving a 117-year sentence. Yet the AI doesn't recommend choosing Malone because behind that long sentence, he's committed unimaginable crimes. Malone has a history of escaping from 3 prisons, being hunted in 47 countries, and even breaking 200 bones of prison guards. Surprisingly, these very facts catch West's attention, and she decides to choose him. Malone, who never cared much about dying, has a change of heart when he learns that his daughter has just had 2 kids, making him a grandfather. This newfound family gives him a reason to want to stay alive. Meanwhile, in a different place, a group of 6 wealthy hunters celebrates the news of a new prey. They've turned hunting into a sport, with 1,300 victims under their belts, always emerging victorious. Their consistent success has made them underestimate each new target. The hunting spot is the same old Apex Island. Suddenly, Malone, who has been transported in a container, starts following West's instructions. He heads to a hidden base in the middle of the forest to wait. On the flip side, the hunters had their own camp too. The first guy to show up this time was Lyle. He waited for a while, and then Eka joined him. Soon after, Bishop came along, followed by Jeza, the only woman in the group and extremely greedy for wealth. A bit later, Carrion showed up as the 5th hunter, while Samuel, the 6th one, had just arrived outside the camp. Samuel seemed like the most relaxed of them, even dressed up all fancy in a suit. Then they met Malone, who looked like an old man who had given up on life. They didn't pay much mind to the info about the old man. Instead, for some fun, Samuel asked West to hide all the ways Malone could get around the island quickly. It was all part of the plan to make sure Malone had to take it slow and learn about the island the hard way. In the cell where they kept the prey, West didn't give Malone any weapons. All he got to choose were some shoes and clothes. Surprisingly, Malone picked a bright red outfit, which made the hunters scratch their heads, thinking he'd be easy to spot in the woods. To make things even simpler for hunting Malone, Samuel decided not to start the hunt until evening. The idea was that Malone would be more exposed and easier to hide from in the dark. So Samuel and the other 5 rich people felt more relaxed and waited for 3 hours. Meanwhile, Malone explored the forest, checking out his surroundings. The hunters all took their spots during this time. Some were busy smoking, while others set up landmines. At one point, Malone spotted one of the hunters, Lyle. Lyle was on his own, testing his aim by shooting at one of the prey's bodies. Malone wasn't about to do anything hasty. He stayed hidden in the bushes, and soon Samuel showed up. But Samuel wasn't interested in talking about where Malone was hiding. Instead, he started talking about business stuff and how he wanted to take over all of Lyle's companies. Malone just watched from a distance, realizing how greedy Samuel was. It didn't take long for Lyle to meet his end, and Bishop noticed it too. But Bishop wasn't going to tell anyone as long as Samuel agreed to give him 20% of Lyle's shares. Then things got busier around them. Malone decided to distract them by throwing a stone. As everyone turned to look and started shooting, Malone quickly grabbed a pistol that had fallen from Lyle. With one swift move, he fooled the hunters who had taken down 1,300 prey before. Once they scattered, Malone decided to quietly tail 2 other hunters, Bishop and Eka. Without warning, he sprang into action, moving silently so they wouldn't notice him. Bishop managed to survive because he had on a bulletproof vest. However, Eka, who was still searching around, got attacked from behind and ended up passing out for a while. When Eka finally came to, his face and legs were all beaten up. It was then that Bishop came closer and threatened the badly injured Eka. Yet again, driven by their business disputes as trillionaires, Eka was disposed of without a second thought. In this brutal sport, the hunters could turn on each other, and all rules and laws meant nothing. The key was to ensure the prey didn't make it past 3 hours without a fighting chance, or the tables would turn. But for some reason, seeing all this unfold made Malone rethink things. He realized that he had to survive among a bunch of greedy people. In just a few minutes, the hunters had weakened themselves. So Malone decided not to make any big moves and instead relaxed, taking in the island's fresh air. Occasionally, he could fill his stomach by eating the berries growing around him. Unlike Jiza, who knew Lyle had died, she intended to buy up all of Lyle's company shares for some profit. But out of the blue, Jiza stepped on a landmine that Bishop had planted. In a split second, she managed to swap spots with Bishop, but Bishop wasn't naive. Jiza stepped on a second landmine, and Bishop made it clear that there was only one active one. So another hunter was gone, leaving just 3: Bishop, Carrion, and Samuel. As the numbers dwindled, Samuel was getting more and more unpredictable, especially after Bishop dared to challenge him to a duel, which Samuel obviously refused. Samuel also saw that Bishop had been scheming from the start, wanting all the riches for himself. That's when Carrion decided to confront Bishop. Without wasting any time, Bishop found himself facing a 2-on-1 situation. Since Bishop held out for a minute, Samuel whipped out a secret weapon. With one shot, Bishop turned into pieces. Surprisingly, Samuel took personal pleasure in killing his victims. To him, each kill was like a prize trophy. Now it was just Carrion and Samuel left. Nobody knew what would unfold next because Carrion had no intention of sitting still. He kept on hunting for Malone across the island, but when he reached the forest, Carrion made a mistake, and Malone's axe throw hit him and causing a wound. On the other side, Samuel tried to contact Carrion right away to find out where he was. Unfortunately, Carrion was trapped and couldn't reply. So Samuel decided to call for help from West. It turned out that Samuel had called for 5 more hunters who were always ready to jump in. This was a move Carrion hadn't seen Samuel use in all of his 1,300 games. Carrion realized that if Samuel was willing to bring in reinforcements, his opponent must be no ordinary person. All of a sudden, Malone felt pretty special being seen that way. But the truth was, no matter how many people Samuel called in, Malone knew he could handle them easily. Samuel ended up summoning 40 people all at once. Nobody had expected that the old guy would turn out to be the most formidable enemy of all the hunters. Even though the hunters had a reputation as mafia bosses and cartel leaders, Malone managed to find their secret base. For the first time, Samuel and Malone faced each other directly. They exchanged greetings while waiting for the right moment. But this time, Malone was determined not to lose. Because he was so strong, he decisively defeated Samuel. To mark his victory, Malone kept Samuel's head as a trophy. With that, Malone was declared the winner and earned his freedom to live with his 2 grandchildren. Moral lesson from the story: even in the most bizarre situations, it's the guy in the bright red outfit who outsmarts all the fancy dressed ones and wins the prize.